Hi, my name is Tiffany Yates Martin. I'm the author of Intuitive Editing, a creative and practical guide to revising your writing, which was supposed to come out on May 5th and will come out on May 5th, but without the IRL fanfare I was hoping for. So thanks for the opportunity, Therese and Writer Unbox, to share this with you. This is a book I'm incredibly excited about. It's a joke that I've been working on it for 1 year and 28 years. I started in publishing in 1992 as a copy editor, working with most of the big six. And then about a decade ago, a little bit more, I transitioned into doing developmental editing. And I'm very lucky to work with major publishers as well as directly with authors. And I work with everyone from New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestsellers all the way to newer authors. And I've seen hundreds of manuscripts and culled all of that into what I hope is a system that helps authors learn to look at their own work with an objective assessing eye and figure out where their story might not be as strong as they'd like it to be, and specifically how to go about addressing those areas and deepening their story and enriching it. I always say I'm not a big fan of dogma in writing, and I love craft books. I read them widely. But I work with a lot of authors who will say, oh, I slavishly followed Save the Cat or the six-stage plot structure or the hero's journey. And that's great. I think all of that can really inform a writer's writing. But I think that it also can strip out what makes a story an author's. So my approach is always to help writers find and free the stories they intended to tell, to find, I call it the best version of your vision. And I knew when I set out to write yet another craft book that if I was going to do it, it needed to be something that was fresh and useful for authors, that was different from a lot of the other craft books that are out there. So what I try to do in this is lead the writer through every step of evaluating their own work and seeing where the strengths are, seeing where it may need shoring up, and ask the right questions of themselves and their story to know exactly how to approach that. I break it up into basically macro edits and micro edits. It starts with the foundation of character, stakes, and plot, and then I go into the micro edit, suspense, point of view, show and tell. It's the most important thing for me was that it be very practical and very actionable. So I specifically called it a creative and practical guide, because it really is about finding your story and your voice in a way that is not, I always say, I don't think that the best way to approach an edit is by taking external rules and try to impose them on your work or make your work fit that structure or those rules. I think it's finding what your story wants to be and then from the inside helping it grow into that. So I'm incredibly excited about this book. It's the kind of thing that I put in editorial letters for the last decade plus with authors, and I think that it is a new approach to doing something. As the author, everything, you're filling in all of the blanks. I think this is a way of figuring out how to evaluate whether all the richness that's in your head and all the work you've done to develop your characters and your story and your plot, whether it's actually coming across on the page. This will teach you how to ask the right questions to do that. I also have a chapter on how to approach an edit, basically how to get that objective distance and how to come at it with the kind of editorial eye that I come at writers' manuscripts with. And then I also, at the end of it, I have chapters on how to train your editor brain, which is a version of a post that I did for you guys about analyzing other people's stories in order to hone your own understanding of storytelling craft with stories that you're already objective with, so you get in the hang of how to do that on your own work. I talk about how to find an editor. If you do decide that you're going to hire one, there's a lot you can do on your own, but often, especially if you're self-publishing, it's important to get a professional objective eye, but it can be really hard to find a reputable, experienced editor. So I talk about where to look, what to look for, how to vet them, what it should look like, what it should cost, and then I finish with a chapter on it's not always financially feasible to do that, and there's a lot you can do on your own. So I talk a little bit about how to get the most out of a beta reader or a critique group and options that there are to help you get that objective distance if you need that actual external other eyes. without having to go through the thousands of dollars expense of hiring an editor. This is a passion project for me. I'm passionate about this topic. I'm passionate about sharing with authors. I'm passionate about helping authors grow their stories into exactly the version that they have in their heads. The best feedback I've ever heard from authors is when we finish working on it, they say, this is the story I wanted to tell all along. I'm really hopeful that that's what I've accomplished with the book, that it helps authors learn to access the story that they have in their heads and wanted to tell all along and make sure they get it most effectively on the page. Thank you guys again for the chance to share this with you and share it hopefully with your readers. Thanks for the chance to contribute to Writer Unboxed. I appreciate it, and I hope everybody's staying safe.